Hey, what's up guys? So we have a very unique product here with me today. This is the Cricut Maker 3. This is a cutting machine that's able to cut up to 300 different materials and has an interchangeable adaptive tool system that you can change up to 13 different tools depending on what you're cutting. Now today we'll just be covering the basics of this machine and seeing what it can do, but of course there's so much more you can do out there, and there's a very helpful community on these forums that have tutorials, tips and tricks, and of course a lot of troubleshooting options as well. But before we start this video, a big thank you to Sync by District for sending this to me for this review. All the links to the products will be in the descriptions below, so do check them out for yourself. Now first off, let's start off with what we get inside the box. Now this is a pretty large box and it barely fits into the frame of my camera. The first thing you'll notice is a greeting card with a few manuals and instructions, as well as a sample piece of smart vinyl. Underneath all that, you'll find the Cricut Maker 3. You'll find a set of power cords, as well as a USB-C data cable. Now, it's pretty simple to get this machine started up. You simply plug it into your computer, download the Cricut software, and you're pretty much good to go. We'll go through a couple of projects that I've done just to show you guys how the whole software works. But first, we need to talk about some of the materials that it's able to cut. Now, like I said, it does come with a sample piece of smart vinyl. Now, smart vinyl is something that's a proprietary product from Cricut, and this is basically a vinyl with a really strong backing already on it, which allows you to put it into the machine and start cutting right away. Now they do also have another type of vinyl called premium vinyl, which is slightly thinner and requires it to be placed onto a cutting mat before inserting it into the machine. Now of course there is a price difference between the smart vinyl and the premium vinyl. The smart vinyl of course is a lot more easier to use. You just have to put it into the machine and you can start cutting, but it's also more expensive. Whereas the premium vinyl is slightly cheaper, but you do have to put it onto a mat, which is slightly more troublesome. But then again, you are able to cut a lot smaller pieces and make use of most of the vinyl. Now apart from that, I also did experiment with the iron-on vinyl, which is pretty fun to make your own t-shirts, but we'll get into that project a bit later. Now some of you might be wondering if you can use other materials that are not created by Cricut, and the answer is yes. There are a lot of tutorials out there that show you how to use normal paper stock to cut out materials and how to adapt it to this machine. Although it's not specifically said that you can do this on their website, it is something that you can do, but you're gonna have to do a bit of research and be a bit more careful with that. Now the advantage of using Cricut's material is that all the material thickness and resistance are all calibrated into the machine, so it knows exactly how much pressure to put on the cutting knife so that it cuts through the material really well and gives you a really premium finish. Now moving on to the software, the Cricut software. This is something that's great and also a downside. The downside first of all is that it is a software that the machine relies on to work for, so you're gonna have to have that software installed on your computer and potentially have the subscription as well. Now the subscription gives you access to a vast library of projects that are already done by other people. There's a great community out there that shares a lot of these projects, and it's really fun when you're getting started. And you can also contribute and upload your own projects so that other people can try out your own crafts. Now without further ado, let's dive into some of the projects that I've experimented with over the past few days. So let's start off with a very simple project. We'll make some simple decals for a bottle, starting off with my name so that people don't just take my stuff. On the canvas, you're able to select many different styles and fonts, however some do require you to be subscribed. Next, you can adjust the size of your text to your desired cutting size. Apart from that, I also wanted a nice graphic cutout to give my bottle some style. Lucky for us, there are loads of designs in the software that you can use, but once again, some of these might require a subscription. Once I found something that I like, I can import it into our canvas and scale it to the desired cut size. When you're happy with what you have on your canvas, you can go ahead and click Make It on the top right, which will bring you to the preparation menu. The first prompt in this menu will ask you how you will be loading your material. For this cut, we'll be using the premium vinyl, which does require a mat, and the mat that we'll be using is the 30 by 30. Next, the program will ask you what type of material that we'll be using, and as mentioned, we'll be cutting on the premium vinyl. Lastly, the program will instruct you on how to load the material, so let's move over to the Cricut Maker 3 and load our vinyl. To load the premium vinyl, simply lay it on the mat and it will adhere naturally to the surface. Next, you'll want to load the material and the vinyl into the machine and press the feed button. This will prompt the machine to start taking in the material and begin the alignment and calibration process. By this time, your design is already loaded into the machine and calibrated to the material type. Simply press the start button and watch the Maker 3 do its thing. Once the cut is complete, the Maker tree will roll out the mat and material, revealing a very fine finished cut. But next comes the most tedious part, a process called weeding. Now, weeding is a process of removing the parts of the vinyl that you don't need. In this case, because we're only using a small segment of the material, I'll first section off the used area before weeding the designs. You might notice by now that I have a lot of designs crammed into a small segment. This is to best utilize the material and reduce waste. As you can see, weeding removes a lot of unused material, and it's always best to minimize this to save cost. Weeding can be done with specialized tools that Cricut does also sell, but to me, simple everyday crafting tools like tweezers and pen knives will do the trick. Now that the weeding is finally done, we can grab our transfer paper and lay it over the design. After that's done, you can segment the designs further to isolate them and use them individually. Once you're ready to use your design, you can peel off the transfer paper from the backing and your design should follow it. Clean the surface well before applying and use your own judgment or tools to align the design. You can then use a scraper or something smooth to press down on the design before removing the transfer paper. And that's it, you get a very premium looking product graphic through a very simple process thanks to the Cricut Maker tree. Now that we've gotten the basic steps down, here's what I did for the iron-on vinyl for a custom shirt. The main steps still remain the same except for the part where you have to select the option to invert the cut for this iron-on vinyl. And that's because there is a transfer sheet on the bottom of this vinyl ready to use onto the shirt or fabric. Once you've completed the weeding process and removed all of the excess material, you can simply place this design onto your fabric and iron it on with a protective cloth cover. After a few passes of the iron, do check it now and then to see if the vinyl has successfully adhered to the shirt. Depending on the different types of material and the size of your design, the time for this process varies. Overall, the customized shirt did turn out really well, and even after washing this shirt several times and using it actively, the design has stayed on the shirt really well. So all in all, I think this machine is pretty advanced and the results I'm getting from it, it's really professionally done. I think it's something that's affordable for anyone who wants to take crafting pretty seriously. I think the software is really user-friendly and it's great that there's a large community out there to contribute and share projects, but at the same time, it's a shame that it's directly connected to the brand and you can use any other softwares to operate this machine. I would have loved to see this machine being used with just regular softwares like a printing app that you're just able to use it as a printer. But again, I think there's a lot of calibration going into these cutting tools that needs to be tied back to the software for firmware updates and regular calibration. Now, like I said, there's a lot that you can do with this machine and it's all too much to just condense into one video. This is just merely scratching the surface of what Cricut can actually do. There's a large community out there on YouTube and forums that are able to teach you a lot of tips and tricks and improve your crafting on this machine. But I hope this has been informative and helpful for you guys. If you guys want to pick this up for yourself, do check out the links in the description below. Once again, a big thank you to Sync by District for sending this product to me for this review. But if you guys like this video, do give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.